Does your happiness depend on others? Maybe you feel fine until someone ignores your message. Maybe your mood changes depending on how people treat you, or you constantly need reassurance just to feel safe. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. Today, we're talking about an important psychological concept that affects our relationships, our self-esteem, and the quality of our lives: emotional independence. The question is, are you emotionally independent, or are you depending on others without realizing it? First, emotional independence doesn't mean you don't need anyone. It doesn't mean coldness or isolation. By nature, we are social beings, but it does mean that your self-worth and inner stability are not controlled by others' approval or attention. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can care without becoming dependent. Simply put, an emotionally independent person takes responsibility for their feelings instead of placing that responsibility on others. So what is the psychological foundation behind this? The most important element is emotional regulation. When facing a difficult situation, they don't immediately look for external rescue. Instead, they process their emotions through reflection and self-awareness. Seeking support becomes a choice, not a necessity, to remain balanced. The second element is a stable identity. They know who they are, what they want, and what they believe in. Rejection may hurt them, but it does not destroy their self-esteem. Is emotional dependency the same as love? Sometimes we confuse the two. The constant need for attention or reassurance may stem from a fear of abandonment or an anxious attachment style, not from deep love. In that case, the relationship becomes a source of safety, not a healthy partnership. Signs of emotional independence include feeling comfortable with solitude without feeling incomplete, trusting your own judgment instead of constantly seeking approval, taking responsibility for your emotions instead of fully blaming others, setting clear boundaries without excessive guilt, accepting rejection without internal collapse. Why is it difficult to achieve? Sometimes because of childhood experiences, especially if love was inconsistent or conditional. Sometimes because of a culture that glorifies the idea of being everything for each other, which dissolves personal boundaries. An anxious attachment style can also make someone associate closeness with safety and distance with threat. Here's a surprise: emotional independence actually strengthens relationships. When you don't need the relationship to survive emotionally, it becomes a choice, not a necessity. You love without pressure, communicate without fear, and set boundaries without feeling threatened. How can you develop it? Notice when your mood is strongly affected by others' behavior. Learn emotional regulation skills like journaling and meditation. Build a life full of your own interests and goals. Practice tolerating feelings of loneliness or rejection without immediately escaping them. Reduce repeated reassurance seeking and start giving yourself confidence. Most importantly, be compassionate with yourself. Emotional independence doesn't mean eliminating your needs. It means balancing connection with self-reliance. In the end, emotional independence is not about needing people less. It's about needing yourself more. When your stability comes from within, relationships shift from being a lifeline to becoming a beautiful addition to a balanced life. Connection is healthy. Need is natural. But true freedom is staying close to others without drifting away from yourself.